Where to begin? I've recently come back from a 3.5 week trip to New Zealand where I was volunteering at a nature conservation sanctuary in the North Island. The sanctuary was completely off grid and focused on the protection of kiwis and controlling pests which harm their way of life. Spending 3 weeks living in the middle of a forest on a farm property alongside 7 other people from varying nationalities such as British, Scottish, Dutch, German, Romanian, American, and even Finnish, everyone was aged 18 to 35 years old. So it was quite insightful spending time with people all across the globe just because of a shared interest in conservation and animals. Especially being in such a remote location and in a school camp type of vibe, there was in a sense nowhere to hide. You had to connect with everyone because you saw them nearly 24/7. With minimal phone usage, you get extremely close with people rather quickly and in a way that is impossible to replicate when back in civilization. Conversations aren't trivial, you spend repetitive days together, you eat every meal together, you brush your teeth together, and you are both foreigners in a land you both know nothing about. In a way, you become the new constant in each other's lives, often becoming more familiar with the people around you than the environment you find yourself in. Now, for the sake of this story, let's refer to people by placeholder names. The main character is Jessica. She's about my age and is a Finnish person I mentioned before. Jessica arrived at camp about a week into my stay, so I was pretty well established in terms of adjusting to my new home. I still remember the first time I saw her. I was reading One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at the camp's sunset log spot, and I saw the camp bus powering up the road in front of me. As it came closer into view, I saw a Nordic girl in the passenger seat, and we gave each other a wave. I did not know it then, and I'm sure she didn't too, but that was the start of one of the deepest emotional and platonic bonds I think I may have ever had the privilege of experiencing. She flew in from a hiking trek in Nepal, cutting a visit short to attend the final weeks of the program. Our first meeting was brief as she was jet lagged, so I went to sleep unsure about where we stood. The second day rolls around and we're cutting tracks in the middle of the forest. We get on like a house on fire, jokes flowing seamlessly, comfortability instantly. That night we play a card game called Carbo. Laughing non-stop, it's honestly one of the first times I've had someone with such a similar humour to me. I can be completely myself and she responds in a similar way. We even whip out accents, often saying the same Southern American phrases coincidentally. It was from that night I knew she was someone special. I'm going to assume those watching don't know my history with girls or love. In one or two sentences, I'm slightly traumatised from a relationship from my late teens. The concept of a lady caring about me romantically is a totally foreign concept. In a way, it's something I don't think it could happen to me. From that day onwards, we were attached to the hip for the entire 2 weeks. We would always seek each other out, we'd share our chores together, we'd stay up late just the two of us and play carbo, we'd brush our teeth together, we'd stargaze, talk about life, and relate to how similar our life stories were, and generally just look out for each other. I remember one time she gave me my drink bottle, which I remembered being empty. She gave it to me full, and I remember just standing there saying wow in front of her. She was confused why I made such a big deal of it. She had no idea my existence back home is devoid of feminine care. These small acts are non-existent back home. I told her and she said that's just what friends do. There were many instances like this, all of which were giving me hope that girls like her exist back in Australia, my home. Now this may sound like the beginnings of a romantic love story in the middle of nowhere, but it was not. The reason she was in New Zealand was to see a man she'd be seeing for a month or two travelling India and Sri Lanka. So despite me adoring her, I acted in a restrained manner out of respect. We ended up setting clear boundaries about a week into the friendship after the camp instructor made a joke that I was flirting with her the whole time. In retrospect, it's not like that I was, it's that I've never met a girl like her before. We got on instantly and we generally like spending time together. I've learned the rarity of these connections in my 24 years, so I decided to stop falling for her and maintain platonic relations. As the second week progressed, more late nights with her, she moved a dinner seat next to mine, eventually sitting next to each other wherever we could. After countless inside jokes, movie nights, carbo games, I was suddenly hit with an incredible sense of melancholy. After Jessica would go to bed, we'd hug goodbye and I would stare up at the sky and get teary-eyed, appreciating the beauty of the relationship we have formed. I would engulf myself with a feeling of inevitable loss, as I knew, come Sunday, I'll probably never see this wonderful girl ever again. Jessica would ask what I did when I stayed up, and I'll just say I was contemplating life. It was after the third time she asked that I told her about the feeling of inevitable loss. We were brushing our teeth looking at glowworms and she told me to accept it, saying that the loss will find its way back to me back home. I wish I had her optimism. Since that conversation, I'd always lock eyes with her and look at her face. We'd stare until one of us laughed, and this occurred many times a day. I knew one day I wouldn't get to see her face, so I took it in whenever I got the chance. I didn't know I was capable of feeling this way about a person again in my life. I thanked her for giving me hope that I can care for someone back home. We could talk about anything together. It was about 3 nights left of the program where I noticed a change in her behaviour towards me. She was more physical and would hit me playfully and kick me and cover my eyes from behind asking who it was. I'd never tell her this, but I hope I could feel her hands off my eyes again. She said this is how she acts with friends she's close with, so I didn't read into it much. Of course, I still knew there was another guy in the equation, so I didn't know how to react. She always made a point of saying I never hit her back. She never knew I adored her. I still remember she'd have toothpaste on her mouth every morning, and I'd have to wipe it off with my jumper. I'll miss doing that. The final night rolls by, and she's cold, so I give her my jumper. We sit looking at the stars when she tells me her middle name is Amelie, off the French movie. First piano piece I ever learnt was from that movie. We played the piece looking up at the night sky, the stars dancing, the Milky Way visible, shooting stars blazing. This was just one of the many coincidences we shared. We then played more carbo, playing the best game we ever played together. We then went and brushed our teeth like normal, but this time she stayed up late with me. I knew then she was staying up because going to bed meant the time we shared together would come to an end sooner. We stayed up looking at the stars, saying thank you and talking about the time we shared together. She'd asked me what's the most beautiful thing I saw that day, and what did I think about. She didn't know I only thought of her, and the most beautiful thing I saw was her being lit up by the setting sun as I sat and enjoyed the sunset next to her. Of course, I never told her that. I said just the sunset. I'd ask her the same, and her thoughts would more or less involve something I've previously said or about the formation of our bond. I was confused because I didn't think friends acted like this. She went to bed and I gave her a drawn out hug. She slept in my jumper. I liked seeing her in my clothing. I stayed up later as usual, teary-eyed on the road, knowing the day I was dreading was around the corner. We wake up at 5:20 AM and I grab her lunch out of the kitchen and meet her as she wakes up. We brush our teeth and look at the stars again. I can sense the shared dread, but what can we do? We're now in the bus and she's behind me, still wearing my jumper. She kicks my foot and I grab her calf, and without thinking, I rub it with my hand and keep holding it. It's the first time I acted on any instinct of physical touch with her. I let go, unsure of what I just did. We exit the bus and get on the next one. We sat next to each other for the 2.5-hour ride, desperately making the most of the time we had left. She gave me a gift from Nepal, and I gave her my old one ring, as I replaced it with a better replica when I visited the Shire. I said a man can't have 2 one rings. It's a symbol of our bond. I wear my one ring around my neck on a gold chain. I got her to wear it twice on the program. Now I can sense her when I wear it myself. The bus arrives at Auckland City Centre and we spend the rest of the day together eating lunch out and having cocktails at a Sky Bar. We eat and drink and debrief the craziness that we didn't know who each other were 2 weeks ago. I'm suddenly reminded of what it must be like having a girlfriend. A sensation I've forgotten since my last one some 6 years ago. She puts forward the idea of breakfast the next day. We meet at 8:30 AM at a beachside cafe, both knowing these are our final hours together. She covers my eyes from behind again. This time I don't react, so she keeps them there longer. That was the last time she'd do that. We spend the next couple of hours walking around laughing. I remember I made her laugh so hard she turned around and said, "I'm going to miss you." She has no idea how much I will miss her. We go to the airport bus terminal. I start telling her how grateful I am to have met her and how I think there's not many people like her on earth. As I'm talking, I notice tears swell in her eyes. I thought I was going to cry first. I tear up and embrace her in a hug. We parted from the hug and she said how she was thinking about how she was going to cry yesterday. We stare at each other and tears swell up in her eyes again. I brace her again in a hug, rubbing her arms and kissing her cheek as I do so. She walks onto the bus and we maintain eye contact through the window that separates us. I stare at her and she cries and I follow too. It felt like a movie scene. Here I was, having met someone from across the globe and had one of the best 2 weeks of my life. We made an unbreakable bond we won't forget. I'll never forget that feeling of hugging her one last time. Part of me felt like kissing her, but I held back out of respect, but I don't know what would have happened if I did. The bus drove off, eventually taking her the furthest away she's been from me in weeks. And there I was, alone again, in a city I know nothing about, fending off tears about a relationship that now felt like a fever dream. One of the main takeaways I got from this experience is how lucky I am to have shared that connection with Jessica. In today's society, there's no way that connection can form. I now sat here in the library, writing this script with a sense of loss and heartbreak, but I'm also glad I still have the capacity to care deeply about someone. From seeing this Nordic girl waving in the bus window for the first time, to crying and embracing each other as she left my view in yet another bus window. How lucky am I that I got to experience a moment in my life as beautiful as that, as beautiful as her. We made it clear this isn't the last time we'll see each other. I plan on going to see her later this year in Europe after I sort out my vet school applications, so we'll see how that goes and I'll keep you updated. If we can learn one thing from this, it's that love exists no matter what you think. And to quote Red Dead Redemption 2, take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act. I feel a new breath of life and I walk the streets of Australia with a newfound hope someone is out there for me. You should too. Thank you, Jessica. I miss you.
You even spoke to me and